Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of eHeroes. This is episode 215, so we're getting up there. And my next guest is Jeremy Delk, who is a serial entrepreneur with lots of businesses, who employs hundreds of employees. And I think this is going to be, a great episode that everybody's going to learn from. So welcome, Jeremy, and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
One of the things that struck me as unique about you versus anybody else that I've ever interviewed is, you're part of this Fortune 500. You have all these companies, you have all these employees, and yet you still take the time to do interviews and podcasts and articles and to me that's impressive.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's a bit of a passion, and I think also a bit of almost like an obligation, right? Now I went on my own in business about 20 years ago, and when I started, it was I was day trading. The dot-com boom was happening, and but we didn't really know what the internet was, right? What it could be. And today, with information, literally at your fingertips, and being able to use Google to effectively learn anything that you wanted to know, you have the platforms and the mediums, and now people are more accustomed to consuming content and information this way. And I just think back to myself as that young 20-year-old entrepreneur who had like a ton of ideas, a ton of passion, ambition, no fucking clue how I was going to do it, right? And I think it becomes like I would have loved to have someone like me that could just say this is what it is and what it isn't, right? I think there's this mystique and there's this magic secret sauce that people think exist, and I don't know if that's the case, right? It's a lot of trial by error and getting going and failing and that. So I think hopefully that's my why, I guess, why I'm doing it. I feel privileged to be able to do it. And um you know you do all these podcasts and you forget about it. I go speak, and I was leaving a restaurant the other day that I go to a lot, and one of the waiters came up to me. He's like, man, I listen to everything you do on YouTube, all your podcasts, like, thank you so much. I'm like, wow, I thought it was just my mom to listen to my stuff, but
Right.
no, it feels good when you get that kind of feedback, and makes it all worth the while.
Back in 1996, I launched my first website, and you know, at the time there wasn't a lot of websites out there. So, I was selling products and I thought this is going to be great. Logistically, it was a pain in the ass because nobody else was prepped for me to send stuff out.
Right.
And so I would get delays, I would get complaints. I had people call, "Where's my stuff? I ordered it from," and it was just gotten to the point where now it's so much easier. You just press a button, sell something. Next thing you know, it's 3 days later, it's in England.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I think people forget that there was a time when none of this, really worked the way it does now. And so yeah, there was a lot of trial and error, and I admire all these companies right now that have gone through this whole trial and error, spent 20 years doing this, and people are like, "Oh, wow, you're an overnight success." No, it
Yeah,
took
exactly. 20 years later.
27
20
years.
years later.
Yeah, so, what do you say to people like that? Because they probably see you or they know you from high school, grade school, or even college, and they look at you now and go, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, I think it's funny. And what do they say? I don't tend to listen to too much what people are kind of saying. Yes, it feels good to feel accomplished and accolades. I'm really I don't know if self-deprecating is the right word, but I probably do that. I try not to get too caught up in it, right? Okay, Inc. 500 and all these different things. That's like your CV, right? I interview some of these kids now, like coming in for a job right out of college, and like their resume looks like they're ready to run the fucking United States, like they could be president. That's like your representation. That's like your all the best highlights of it, and to me, that's not real, right? That's a part of it, but it was what took me to get there and to you know fail and buy these companies and sell these companies and build them and just get going. It was the process of getting there where I actually did the learning and kind of going through. Yeah, it's a nice scorecard at the end to have some monetary successes and some big awards like that. But it's like you said, it's not an overnight success. It's that process. So I like to say to them, hey, listen, yeah, worked hard, but you can do it too. I'm not special. I'm a small town kid from Bardstown, Kentucky, Nowhereville, USA. And we are the bourbon capital of the world. So I actually love my hometown. And Rand McNally is the most beautiful small town in America a few years ago. But still, small town, 30,000 people. I shouldn't have been able to do what I was able to do. Um, so I'm not special. And I think that's part you mentioned my book. Um, that's really why it's had its evolution. I don't know if you. I know you've done a lot of books. This one for me is my first, maybe my last, but it's memoir esque is how it started.
Mhm.
And then when I started telling these stories about my life, um, you started seeing this pattern evolve, and that's really kind of what led to the title, Without a Plan. And I started the book without a plan to do it and without a title. So in writing the book, it developed into the title, Without a Plan, and it's literally a retrospective endeavor of the last 20 plus years, even up early into my childhood, of my business career, and how all the things I've been able to do, all of them, not like most of them, all of them started without a fundamental plan. I had an idea, I knew where I wanted to go. So I really, that's what I like to speak about, is that, hey, this isn't just me, like, I'm not some college professor talking shit. Like, I've actually done it, right? And I think there's a lot of, there's a lot to it if you can just get started and take action. So many entrepreneurs now are struggling with, the next decision, right? Whether that's a decision to go into business, to expand their business, to make a hire. And you have this analysis by paralysis, or paralysis by analysis, and you never get off the ground. And I think that's the death of so many great companies and ideas.
Yeah, I mean, 20 years ago when I first started consulting, I had a couple clients come to me and they say, well, "Can you design a business plan for me?" I said, "Sure, this is the price," and that they paid it. And the problem with business plans is most people don't follow them.
Yeah.
And so they waste all this money to get a plan, to tell them what to do. They don't follow it. They might as well have done it without a plan because they'd have more success. So your
Yeah.
book, I think, is going to hit home to a lot of people and help them understand that, you know, action is the first thing that they should be doing.
It's all action. And again, I mean, and you'll get this more in the book, and I'll send you guys some chapters out, or I'll make sure you gets out to your audience, with some great discounts or something. But it's not also like, hey, just go through life like a vision board and like lollipops and gumdrops, and it's all going to work out. That's not what I'm saying either. But the the agility that you have, as opposed to the rigidity that you have with this, 200-point multi-pronged step plan. If you go that way, you don't know what's going to happen. Did anyone have a plan for COVID, Rob? I don't think so. That
No.
wasn't anyone's playbook, right? So if you have this multi-pronged plan that you have this sense of rigidity to it, as opposed to, hey, this is where I want to go, and then take it as you go, take it as you get there, right? Okay, now here's a new path. What decision do I want to make? Because oftentimes, and this is evident in the book, many businesses that I started that became very, very successful, I didn't know enough. I didn't know what I didn't know. So it would have been the wrong plan, right? I started a building materials company, and I was going into window and doors retail. It wouldn't be pretty sexy to be the most successful retail window and door salesman, but I didn't know anything different. I knew that's all I had. It was only getting into it, starting it, that led me to, becoming a major distributor, to my own manufacturer in Germany and Italy. So like, you don't know. It could be the wrong plan, I guess. Right. So
Right.
not only could it hinder your success, you could maybe go into the wrong direction.
Well, I think a lot of entrepreneurs went into the wrong direction during COVID by cutting out their marketing, by cutting out podcasts, by cutting out articles, by cutting out all the stuff that was letting their name get out there. And I just kept on going. I one of the things that I always do is, my marketing always comes first before all my clients, and because if people don't know who I am, my clients aren't going to hire me. So,
Absolutely.
I think that was the problem with a lot of them. They're like, well, we don't have cash flow, so let's cut out all the expenses such as marketing. And then they wondered why their businesses failed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can't agree more. I mean, you've got to stay relevant, right? I mean, in the TMC business that we took Inc. 500. I mean, we could barely keep up with where we had. Like
Mhm,
it was struggling. So it was the inverse. Some of you businesses are like, hey, how do I get business? We were like, how do we keep this thing from not imploding? Because we just had so much revenue. So the last thing that a typical person, not a typical, but a reaction to that would sometimes be, all right, let's just pause and like just handle what we have.
mhm,
It's growth at all costs, man. That's what the business is, especially if you're going. And also, like the moment you don't show up and spend $50,000 at an expo or go and speak or sponsor, the moment you don't do it, even though you may not need it, where did those guys go? Right? You have to stay relevant, right? And you have to stay in there. It's you can't. So I agree completely. It's not always a, and that's what I know we do. I've got a digital media business as well. I know you do a lot with that.
mhm.
Gone are the days, right? Algorithm change. Like you put a dollar in, you get a 4x ROAS. It doesn't happen anymore. You got to understand. Hey, I may put a dollar in to get 60 cents back, but my LTV is going to be $4 in 18 months. Like you
Mhm.
have to have that long term um, vision and a horizon, or not vision, long term approach to marketing and branding.
Right. Now I was looking at one of your posts, and it's on your website, which is pretty ironic. Most businesses don't get to where you are without making mistakes. And it look you put here that one of your most valuable mistakes was or failures was a $2 million loss. Most businesses couldn't cope with that. I think most businesses would most entrepreneurs would probably die and just say, I can't do this. I don't know what to do next. And you just climbed right out of
Well, that's more eloquent than reality, right? And I wanted to die, and it wasn't just and it wasn't just a $2 million loss. I mean, it was everything I had at the time. I was bust, not like bankrupt, but like I was like went from a lot of cash to $0 in the bank. Um, Dug out of it, paid my bills, and rebuilt. But I think that's a huge lesson that I also talk about in the book that you know these setbacks, these things. I was watching someone, I don't know who it was the other day, talking about this balance, right? Of there's nothing good or bad that comes without an equal balancing cause or effect. So hey, I had this big setback, but what did I learn? Because that was a huge setback. But to your point, it's on the website. Like I credit that to be one of the top three things that ever happened to me in my life because I learned so much. I learned humility. I learned that no matter how fucking smart I think I am, I'm not, right? There's always something more to learn and you don't always have it figured out. So that I'm very optimistic, but that cautious kind of component of understanding, hey, what can happen here? What's on the around that corner? Being cognizant of that was one part. The other part is, what are you going to do? I wanted to die. I wanted to move home with my mom. Those are like the innate fight or flight, traits that we have innately in us as humans. But that's just a choice, right? And what do you really want to do? And dig down into it. And again, I'm not special. I think if everyone's had loss or tragedy or huge impactful things that at in the moment we thought they were the most catastrophic, world ending, I'm never going to recover from it until we do. So what that's allowed me to do now is giving me that confidence, like, hey, man, remember how much that sucked? And I've had other big things that happened as well. That really sucked. Feel bad about it, maybe cry a little bit, have a couple bourbons. But the sooner you just get that piece over and realize that there's nothing productive that's going to come out of that, then you can reset yourself like, okay, how are we going to think ourselves out of this? What are we going to do?
Yeah, that's amazing. But you don't just do, your businesses kind of encompass a lot of different things. And in fact, you even have, a vacation rental, um, but in the Virgin Islands. And I think to some people that would open their eyes and go, wow, I want to be like him. But you do it not to impress. You do it to, support your other businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can, anytime you can make money, um, and have like those type of side benefits where you can enjoy the Caribbean. Like I love the Virgin Islands and the BVI. We're on a small island called Yost Van Dyke, and the people they're like my extended family. It's just something that's so special to me, and I don't know that it ever. Well, I know it never started out to be like, hey, let me go and build a beach house on a remote island, which is right during before a hurricane, by the way. So all the complications and expense and pain in the ass that is, um, it was never like, let me do that to make money. It just kind of happened again without a plan to a degree, and it's now worked out super successfully. We actually just made an investment and purchased. Looking at purchasing another development down in the BVI, which is going to be exciting. So um, it's I started in real estate, love real estate, and yeah, it's neat. But yeah,
So we all hear of stories of Elon Musk, owning all these different various companies, and now you do too, and I've owned various companies, but I've always owned one or two at a time, not a dozen. And even though I help a lot of companies, you know, to me sometimes it gets too much. It's like, okay, I got to focus on this company today. I got to focus on that one. How do you focus on a whole array of companies like that and still stay sane?
well, I don't know that I'm sane. There's that. I mean, I don't think about it, right? I mean, I look at business and deals as, I mean, they're my drug, right? I don't do drugs. I mean, I'm not that way inclined, but deal flow and businesses like that's what gets me excited and intoxicated. I mean, I've tried to retire a couple times, and I don't know that I ever will, right? And it's not because I don't need to continue to earn income and support my kids and family and all those things. It's just a passion, and I just really love it, and I love learning. I think that's the bit for me. I love taking, like Peter Thiel's book, like 0 to 1. I love taking something from just a concept, an idea, to then okay, let's see what we can do. I also, I think, am you know, pretty realistic in knowing what my strengths are and what they're not. I like to break things. I like to make them go really fast and go through. But once I build them to a certain scale, 100 employees is, per company, 50, 60. Once it's at that level, I try to, sell it, bring in an operating partner and, just let the adults kind of run it. Cause I'm not going to be value. Like, even I used to do, and I'm not taking clients at the moment, but I used to do some consulting and stuff like if you want your business to go up, incrementally like 17 to 18% a year, I'm not your guy, right? I'm your guy if, the walls are falling through or you need rapid growth. I mean, that's the piece that really that lights my fire. So I can get out there and really feel like I can add value because that's where I've been in the trenches. That's where I've been most successful in my life.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of your interviews, and it's always the same consistent message over and over and over, and I admire that. There's a lot of people out there that depending on what podcast you're on, they cater to that audience, and to me, it's like, wait a minute, what if there's somebody in here that's overlapping, and now here's something totally different?
Yeah.
With you, it's always the same
Yeah.
message.
Yeah. I'm not that smart. I just say what I know, what I've what I've experienced. And yeah, it's just easier to be on that message. And again, like I keep reiterating, like it's everyone that's listening to this podcast or anything I've ever done, you can do it, right? I mean, if you really want this, right? If you really have this drive or passion or whatever it is, you can accomplish it, right? It takes hard work and takes determination. There is no overnight success, right? You got to just block this out, block out the naysayers and just say, hey, listen, I want to go and do this. I believe in it and go for it. And if it doesn't work out exactly how you thought it would, okay. You've not completely failed until you stop. You're just working in progress. That's it, right? The moment you stop, then you're a failure, right? I fail at business, but I never stop. I'm never a failure, right? I fail business on purpose. I break them, but I do that to learn and then continue going. As long as you have that forward momentum, you'll be okay. It may take your business 7 years to make money. Okay. If you have the resources to be able to do it and you believe in it, then do it.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, and just earlier you had shared some of the struggles that you are having writing this book without a plan. And my very first book was I'd say very time consuming. There was a vision I had, and I compiled all this stuff together, and I was going to make it, very very large. And I thought, no, this sucks. And I just tossed everything aside and started fresh. And I was coming back from a trip from Arizona, and just on the plane, I thought, hey, let's just make it simple. And
Yeah,
the more simple I made it, the more the book flowed. And I put it out there. It was all a book about social media at the time, and it became actually my one of my best sellers. And it was just simple and easy, and I didn't complicate it, and it was just only 120 pages, and but it helped launch me into something that you know became sort of my life now. Is I tried to shop the book. Nobody wanted it. They wanted thick, cumbersome books, and
yeah,
so I created my own publishing company, and so 36 books after in 9 years. I think I'm doing something
yeah,
enjoyable, but
yeah.
it was like you said, without a plan. I just I although I had this plan, it was not what I wanted, and I had to toss it.
But that's phenomenal though, right? I mean, look at it. What if it got picked up and you did one book and then you got really raked over the coals and just had the worst experience publishing? Then you would have not had all those other books, right? You're like,
Right.
look, that's for the birds. I'm never going to do that again. So yeah, I think that's great. I mean, my piece for me, I mean, it's definitely got some girth to it. Page wise, I think it was more therapeutic now. Like that's everyone, that I've known that's written a book, especially memoir. Like, man, be prepared. And I didn't, I wanted to tell my stories, but it was going to be a business book. That's what it was going to be. It was going to just be a business book. Um, and not like it was going to obviously hit the successes, but it was going to talk about the failures of them. And then what ended up happening is I got really personal, right? And I just kind of told everything in my book. So it's because that's what I mean. Business is there's a other side of it.
Mhm.
Why I've been able to be diverse in different industries is because I don't care what the fuck industry it is. Business is business, and
Right.
people are people. So I'm just a guy. I'm running businesses and I employ people. I do all the things that you say, but I'm also a father. I'm, a husband. I'm those things as well. And so are all your customers. So for me, I thought it would been, well, it became disingenuous to just talk about this forward facing Jeremy Delk, blah, 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 blah. That just seemed disingenuous as opposed to like, hey, let me tell you what I was really fucking scared of. Cause like, entrepreneurship can be very lonely.
Mhm.
How that affected me and like internally and how I had to like, I was super scared and early days and starting the businesses. Like, how am I going to make payroll that you have to put on a strong face for your employees? Like those things are really what I think. Even we've had a lot of people that have reviewed the book just before finalizing it, and it's not the 32-year-old Wall Street guy. It's 7-year-old, tech entrepreneur. We have those, and they really love it, and that's great. It's the best feedback I got was like from the 55-year-old grandmother, right, or the stay-at-home mom that's looking at like that is who I've been able to touch, which is pretty exciting for me because that's not typically my audience. I curse, lived in New York a long time, whatever. So I didn't know how I was going to be accepted, and my book is written in the almost the way that pretty much the way that I speak,
Mhm.
and they were able to see through that and see the authenticity and just like, hey, like this is it. And anything's possible, right? It
Right.
really is. And I think that's so while it was painful as fuck to do it, I'm so proud of the product. Because I do think if given the chance and someone picks it up and reads it, it's going to touch them in some way,
Right.
inspire them in some way. And that's for them to decide where.
Yeah. And that was whole kind of the basis of my Rob versus books is it's my sarcastic adventures dealing with spammers and scammers, morons, entitled, and it just got worse during COVID. The customer service went out the window,
Yeah.
and so it just I started out with Rob versus the scammers, and then right during COVID, it's like I had so much material dealing with these people that over the last 2 years I've produced 6 Rob versus books, and they're actually now my bestseller. It might be made into a TV show right now, and we're in negotiations. So I
Right.
already wrote the first pilot episode, and so it was something that it was just how I felt at the time dealing with these people, and I knew this is not how businesses run.
Yeah.
So I turned a funny you know comedic thing into something that was more of a teachable moment.
Right.
And so in every book, I share about 50 of these funny adventures, and I always have a little life lesson at the very end of the stories. And you know, I just enjoy getting people to laugh. And
Yeah.
if you enjoy sarcasm, hey, we're going to be best friends.
Exactly.
If you don't enjoy sarcasm, you'll never work with me.
Right.
And so it was kind of rejection marketing at the same time as attraction marketing, because it's just it's differentiating all the people that you really don't want to deal with.
Sure.
And but it's funny because people still come to me and they're oh my god, that they're chatting with me, and oh, I don't want to be in your book. Well, stop doing this crap. So it's I think that everybody needs to take their adventures, being an entrepreneur, and create a book. I
Yeah.
think they need to put their emotions out there. They need to put their sarcasm, or whoever they are, personally, put
Yeah.
that in the book.
Yeah.
I think too many people put these books out and they're so sugar coated and politically correct that when people go to read it, they're like, "This is not him. Who is this
Yeah.
person?"
I can't agree more. And even if like you're super introverted and just like I would never want to have everyone. Why do it for yourself, man? Do it for yourself, or do it for your kids, or just 'cause, like we all are shaped by these stories and whether, but it's invaluable, especially to your network, like how you interpret things.
Mhm.
It's gold, right? But you can quickly see if it's bullshit, as to your say, right? If it's sugar coated or whatever, you can, and that's why I was so adamant on mine. Like anyone that knows me, like friends and enemies, will say the same thing, right? Like love me or hate me, it's all true. It's like that. That's the piece that was so important to me.
Yeah. So how do people get a hold of you? Where do they go?
So I'm pretty simple to find. I mean, jeremydelk.com is the website. And then I'm Jeremy S. Delk on all social platforms. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc.
People use Twitter.
I
Mm.
I'm so I own a digital media company and like have to like my kid, my son oldest, he races go-karts, so I have to like video him and shoot things at the go-kart track and have to send it to my team to do it. So I don't even know my passwords to be able to log into some of the
Yeah,
stuff. They do
yeah.
it. Yes.
I just I stopped being on Twitter years ago. I still auto post because I use a scheduler, so all
Yeah.
my stuff goes there. It's too chaotic for me. I like Facebook, I like Instagram, I
Yeah.
like LinkedIn, but yeah, TikTok, forget it. I don't like Snapchat and I don't like Twitter. So yeah, so you're not going to see my personality over all these social networks. And we have a mutual friend, Steve Sims, who always says you got to be omnipresent.
Yeah. Yes.
And for Steve, that's great. For me, and for a lot of entrepreneurs, we focus on what makes us the most money at the same, we're kind of where we feel comfortable being. And as soon as we get outside that comfort zone, and I understand the whole psychology of comfort zones, but you get into that TikTok or Snapchat, and maybe it's not really what you want. Maybe it's not, you don't feel entwined to that social network, then don't be on it.
Yeah, especially because you have to be different, right? I mean, because I mean, obviously, Instagram just made a big move, not just, but recently, right, with their reels versus what TikTok is. I mean, they basically, recreated it, right? So you can get the same thing you were very similar things you can get on TikTok now on Instagram with reels. And reels are the most performing engagement piece on IG right now. But LinkedIn, to be omnipresent, and I agree with Steve, but it's different, you know, it has to be delivered differently, right? And if I'm saying something to my LinkedIn community, these are all CEOs, Fortune 5. I mean, they consume and respond to content in a different manner than someone's going to see it on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or TikTok for that matter. I don't think I'm on TikTok or Snapchat either. But you can't just post all on the same things, right? So I think that's the other piece too. About it's really for me, it's all about being authentic,
Mhm.
and unless it's the same, and I appreciate your comment saying that I always say the same things, which is good, but because that's important to me. I just want to be myself,
Mhm.
and my message I don't think is complex, but you have to be authentic. And the moment you have to get on there and start dancing and doing all the dances on TikTok, but if that's not you, because I'm never going to do that shit,
Yeah.
fucking don't do it, right? Because then you're forcing it, and then once you lose authenticity, you lose all credibility, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I only know one dance move, and so for me to be on TikTok, it's not gonna work.
It's going to be a lot of reoccurring stuff. Yeah.
People get bored quick. I mean, I could point, but yeah, it doesn't work for me. What do you think about influencers? I just saw a post earlier today where Walt Disney or Disneyland fired one of their employees because the employee said the influencer was rude. And so to me that puts precedent, the Disney is putting precedent over the influencer versus their own cast member.
Wow. I didn't see that post, but I mean, I think it's we have a lot of opinions on it. I think majority of the, like a large majority of the influencers are all full of shit. They're not real, right? I mean,
Right.
they're living fake lives and they're going through, I think a lot of them have a lot of self-esteem issues, a lot of things that they're projecting a life that they really don't have, and they're in a lot of pain. And I feel really bad for them. Um, at the same token, I don't feel that bad for them because I think they're hurting, a lot of the young people that
Right.
are emulating this shit because it's not happiness, right? It's just not like I can from experience. I try to buy fucking happiness. Like money's great utility and it's great. You fucking can't buy happy. You're either happy or not. And if you're fucking not, you need to work that shit out, right? And understand why. Because I promise you, you can't car it to death. I've tried. You got to do the work.
Right.
Um, so that's that. Um, so a bit somber there, but yeah. So I think majority of them are bullshit. But I think if you use your platform properly, and have something positive to say, influencers can be great. Gary Vaynerchuk, fucking phenomenal, right? Like Gary is the most authentic go through, but I mean, besides obviously Russian, previous Soviet Union immigrant, came up with nothing. I mean, his little thing, he flashes five every time, right? Because
Mhm.
of the Jets jersey that his mom, dude, that is so real, so authentic that, they forget that he runs, Vayner Media, which, tons of employees and probably $1 billion business or better. They forget about that. They just relate to who Gary V is.
Mhm.
And he's an inspiration. And you see that where he's filming a video and someone will just walk up to him like, hey man, you did this to me. That the world needs more of that.
Mhm.
That's what the world needs. That's an influencer that people should aspire to, right? Going through. He's not on his fucking jet. He's not doing all that stupid. I mean, sometimes he'll be caught on it, but he's not posing in front of shit. He's
Right.
real, going through, and you mentioned Disney. I mean, look, I don't know if he pulls it off or not. If anyone's going to make this NFT thing work, it will be him with
Mhm.
V Friends and what he wants to do. Like that vision to basically recreate Walt Disney with V Friends. It's that big thought, those big ideas, like you mentioned, Elon. Bringing fucking rockets back to make them reusable. That can be game changers. So the world needs more Gary Vaynerchuk's, unless I won't I won't name all the other ones I fucking say, but you know who I say you don't need more of.
We have a few minutes left, but I want to talk about Sir Richard Branson. I noticed that you were in a picture with him, and you know, your vacation rental in the British Virgin Islands is pretty close to his Necker Island, and I didn't know if that was a connection or if you met him some other way.
Yeah, yeah. So that photo was actually on Necker. And yeah, the British Virgin Islands is a very, very small territory, right? I mean, I think Tortola has 30 something thousand people. Um, the island my house is on Joost van Dyke, which is like 200 people year round, 220. Super, super small. One of the I say the best beach and bay in the world, called White Bay. If you listen to country music or any of your audiences, Kenny Chesney's there, singing about it all the time. And there's a line, hanging down the islands, sitting down at Ivan's, and Ivan's stress-free bar is literally right beside my house, and it's very simple honor bar. You run a tab for a week and go settle up. But Richard's place, he owns Necker, which where his family lives, and has like a bit of a compound there. And then he has Mosquito Island as well. That's on the North Sound off of Virgin Gorda. So yeah, I've been lucky enough to go on to Necker, I don't know, 40 times, playing with the lemurs and see the tennis courts. And it's a remarkable place. And he has a big fundraiser every year that we've been fortunate to go to the last 7, 8 years. And yeah, it's just a small, intimate group, and you'll see Kenny Chesney sitting on, a bar stool, singing with 150 people. I mean, it's a surreal experience, but um, for the Virgin Islands, I mean, I think maybe I grew up one day to try and do as much for the Caribbean as he has. I mean, he's an inspiration. Obviously, a huge visionary entrepreneur. One story I want to say: there's a guy who's a good friend of mine now. His name's Gumption, and Gumption. And I'll forget exactly what the charity was, but this is like for context. Gumption's a local BB Islander, and he used to work. He used to work. He's a big kiteboarder, parasailer, etc. And he used to work, for Branson in his like surf shop as staff. And Gumption is pretty severely dyslexic, as is Branson, is pretty widely known. And Gumption had this idea that he wanted to start a glass bottom boat business, right? And his this Gumption's a Rastafarian, he's like just cool dude, right? Just super cool dude. And he pitched the idea to Branson, and Branson funded him. I think Larry Page did as well, because Larry Page has another island there, of Eustacia. So I'm pretty sure I know Branson did. I'm pretty sure Larry Page did as well. But they funded Gumption $50,000 to start this glass bottom boat business, and that became the very first investment in an annual investment that he makes for local BVI entrepreneurs as startups, which is pretty cool. Gumption repaid that $50,000 loan with interest in 10 and a half months. I mean, if that's not exactly right, pretty fucking close.
Mhm.
And it's the local kid with nothing, right? I mean, with an idea and dream, but that chance that Branson gave him and saw in him, and it's amazing. And just put this into perspective, I met Gumption 5 years ago, probably, and learned that story. And he's in Branson's book. He meant the story I just mentioned to you is in one of Branson's books. I don't know which one. And Gumption's reading the story to me. It's just like it pulls at your heartstrings. He actually did a TEDx talk, Gumption. So if you Google, and I'm like the worst with fucking shit. Like, so I'll put it in the show notes, or I'll give it to you. But it's like a hundred no's, one yes is what the name of his talk.
Mhm.
But that is entrepreneurship, and that is supporting the next generation, because I support Gumption in any way that I can. And he sent me a WhatsApp message literally 2 or 3 weeks ago, and doing a fundraiser from a dyslexic fucking guy. Okay, doing a fundraiser for books and backpacks for the BVI schools. So I think we sent down like a few hundred backpacks to help sort. But he raised, I think him and himself raised money, and I contributed a small amount. I sent 200. He put together 2,000 backpacks, 2 to 3,000 backpacks. So every kid in the BVI can have a new backpack for the school year.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
And those are the stories that I think that every entrepreneur needs to understand, that that's the legacy they leave behind. You
And it's
know.
your obligation. That's so going back full circle. Why do I do this shit? That's why,
Mhm.
right? And I love that Gumption would reach out to me and say, "Hey, we're a few hundred backpacks short, man. What can you do?" Done.
Mhm.
I dropped everything I was doing and fucking sorted out fucking multicolored backpacks on Amazon, and made sure they got down there to them, and organized pickup on the yeah. It's cool, but again, it's paying it forward. And that guy's gonna that $50,000 that Branson and I want to give Page credit too, because I think he did it too. That fucking 50 grand that means nothing to them, right? In material. I'm not saying
Right.
discounting, but that has paid and touched so many people.
Mhm.
And it's that's what this world's about.
Yeah, it's I think sometimes we do, as entrepreneurs, we do what we do not to accumulate money, in the sense of money. We do it because money is a tool that we can help other people, and those that help other people are going to be remembered longer.
Yeah.
So it just I appreciate this, and I'm sure all the listeners do. And so please, if you like this, go to jeremydelk.com. You know, watch his stuff, go to his podcast, learn all about him.
Get the
Um,
book, baby. Get the
yeah,
book.
and
Amazon, November 8th.
buy it. Yeah, buy his book
Yeah.
because I'm gonna be getting a couple copies to give to people, and I want my listeners to understand that I learn as much from these interviews as they do, and this is why I continue because I want to continue to learn from other people. You know, whether we do the same things, whether we do different things, I continuously learn, and I've been doing this podcast for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
So, to do over 200 episodes of a podcast is incredible in these days when the average does what, about 8 episodes and
Yeah.
quits.
Yeah. I think 7 or 8's the number. And then yeah.
Yeah. So, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. And please, everybody, jeremydelk.com. This is why Jeremy's an e hero. And I appreciate you guys. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks, Rob.